here are some of the frustrations I've come across with guitar players in the past 25 years of playing. The first thing I'll go over is the volume war. This is a commonly known thing, especially sound guys. Or it's commonly known among sound guys. And usually when they see a guitar player, the first thing they think is, oh no, I need to turn them down. And that makes things more difficult for the guys who don't just crank up all the time. But let's say you have two guitar players. You get your first set, 4-hour gig, and they just inch up a little bit, trying to compete with each other. Make sure each one's cutting through a little better than the other when they're taking a solo. And then, second set goes by, it's worse. Third set goes by, it's worse. By the end of the night, all you hear is the two guitar players. You don't hear the vocals, you don't hear the drums, keyboards, nothing. Just two blaring guitar players. And this is a very common thing, and there are a lot of guys I just don't want to play with because of that. The way I used to get around it was just by keeping my rhythm sound really quiet, and then I'd have a volume boost for solos, so in a way I was competing in the volume war, but at least I wasn't blaringly loud all the time. But then, I mean, you have to think about the whole band sounding good, so or at least me, I would turn my rhythm sound down really low, where you could barely hear me, and then just cut through on the solos. Try to bring it up as loud as the voice, and my guitar probably still wasn't as loud as the other guitar player. But common thing, terrible thing to do, and it ruins the sound of a whole band. And nobody wants to listen to you just doing this. I was talking quietly to prove a point there. Alright, second thing is toe stepping. And stepping on everybody's toes. Especially other guitar players. There's one thing that really drives me crazy. I'll be doing a riff. I was going to play a common one, but let's say I'll invert a couple of the notes. I'll play it terribly so it won't get a copyright strike or whatever. So let's say I'm doing that part of the song. That's my part. Other guitar player sees me doing that part, and he starts copying it because he says, oh, I can do that part too. So I've got to go either stay in the same spot and just do simple chords like this, and then he starts doing that, or I go to this part, he sees me doing that, so he starts copying it. Even when you tell them ahead of time, I'm going to do this part on this song, you do that part. And there's no cure for that. I mean, if you're in your 20s and you're still doing that garbage, you shouldn't be playing with anybody. But let me see here. Stuck in the past. That's another thing that really irritates me. This goes back to the volume war thing. Guitar amps have some problems in their design. Namely, they're made to project into the audience. And if you have them close by your feet, you're not going to hear it at all, and you're just going to keep on turning it up until the audience's ears are bleeding, and you still can't hear yourself. So tilt the thing back. Another thing, even really low wattage tube amps are loud, and my favorite thing to play through is a tube amp still to this day, although mainly when I perform I go direct with a good amp emulator, or I like the Sans Amp products a lot. And you should see the relief on the sound guys when I show up with that. Especially if you have two guitar players in your band and you both go direct, sound guys will love you. Because they'll actually be able to control the sound, and you'll probably be heard better if you're in a very large venue. Guitar amp isn't going to be as powerful as a big PA system, but the front of house mix is going to be terrible if you have your amp cranked up. But you can't hear it, so they're too loud. Even low wattage ones, you can't hear it if it's too close to you. So lately what I've been doing, of course, going direct, or if I'm not sure if I'm going to hear myself, I'll bring a PA speaker, just a powered PA, and point it at me so I can hear it really well and let the sound guy do his job. But that thing, and I mentioned the flat fretboard thing again. So they're stuck in the past, but it's not the far distant past, it's the recent past where they started curving fretboards. And almost every guitar manufacturer only has curved options. Even people who make specialized necks. Curved or conical radius or a compound radius. I don't think that I did a whole video on that already, and the problems that causes. But I'll move on. And being stuck in past, this also goes back to the volume war thing. So they always have to have a tube amp. And I understand the tube amp thing. I like tube amps. But give me a blindfold test with the modern technology, and I probably couldn't tell you at this point, because everything is so good. The digital stuff is great too. And it's EQ'd already. I mean, it's you don't have to worry about mic placement. You just plug in and go. Recording's easier with it too, and so mainly that's why I've been going direct. And thought about selling my amps, but I really like them, and occasionally I will use them on a gig. But I'm trying to think. Yeah, stuck in the past. So yeah, certain design flaws in guitars people want to keep because they think it's going to sound better, or they want to sound like a particular guitar player, and you're not going to sound exactly like any particular guitar player. There are too many little things that change the sound. Big part of that is how you set your tone, how hard you play, timing. I mean, there's so many factors into somebody's sound, but yeah, little design issues like having that headstock angle too far back, or having knife edges on the saddles on your bridge that breaks strings sooner. I might even do a part 2 on this. But another thing, really irritating thing, and this isn't just limited to guitar players. This is about a lot of soloists. They don't learn how to play over chord changes, and that's fine if you're just doing riffs. If everything stays in the same key, you'll be okay. But if you're in your 30s and you're performing for money and you can't play over the chord changes to sitting on the dock of the bay, you got a problem. And this is common. And simple solutions, if you don't want to learn what scale to play over it, or if you don't want to learn what licks to play over certain chords, just learn the chord. So let's say it's the second chord in sitting on the dock of the bay. Well, it's originally in the key of G. You go to a B7 chord. Well, that's not in the key of G. I know. I imagine a lot of guitar players want to solo an E minor pentatonic over this whole thing. I'll show you how that sounds. So. Here it is, the typical guitar player. Okay, right here. So, no good. Unless you're just trying to create tension. But even if you don't know what scale to play, when you come across that chord, do the notes of the chord. So, here's an example. Not overly complicated, but the chord doesn't last too long in that song. Then you go back whenever it goes to the C chord, and you're back in G. You can do your E minor pentatonic licks. But then it goes to an A chord. Now there's an A minor in the key of G, but there's not an A7. Then you're back to, well, you can just do an arpeggio. Alright, that was a minor, that was a ninth chord. Or learn what scale, and you have various options, or learn licks over that chord. Learn a couple jazz standards, and learn how to solo over the top of them. Trying to think of another common song that has, there's a lot of songs that have that, so it's typically the third chord in a key. It's typically a minor chord if you stay in the key, but it's a very common thing to do. A dominant chord there, or even a major chord. So yeah, Creep by Radiohead is the same thing. Same chords sitting on the dock of the bay at that part anyway. See, then it's got a C minor. So that song has two chords that aren't in the key of G. And it's not a song you typically solo over, but it is a common thing to do, and it's good to know how to get around that. So if you don't know what scale to play, just play the notes of the chord. And let's see. Oh yeah, minor, and I already went over this a little bit, but playing minor pentatonic over everything, including songs in major. There's nothing wrong with the pentatonic scale. It's a great scale. It's versatile. There's so much you can do with it if you apply it correctly. And it gets way more of a bad rap than it should, but here's why you shouldn't do it. So I'll play just a really slow, kind of mellow chord progression here. And then see how it sounds with minor pentatonic. Playing out of time on purpose too. So we still use the pentatonic scale, but go to major. I hit a note from the major scale in there, my mistake. That wasn't in the pentatonic scale. And that's about it for now. I might do a part 2 on this because there are so many problems with other guitar players, and some of them are great. Actually, a lot of them are in there. There are a lot of guys I've really enjoyed playing with. But these are things that make me want to stay away. Keep that in mind if you're a young player or if you're an older player that's not getting any gigs and no one wants to play with you. One of these reasons, or one of the things I mentioned could be the reason. Thanks for watching.